of women in sport.
Hello and thanks for downloading Beyond the Balls. You're listening to our 17th episode. Beyond the Balls is a co-production between Women's Sport Australia and WIS Sports. We're here to discuss all the topics on women's sport off the pitch. We are your hosts, Georgina Mallon, that's me, and Ella Smith, that would be you.
Yes, that is me, Ella Smith. I'm really excited today because we do have our first ever Matilda on the show, which is really exciting. So let's get into it. Today we're chatting to Australian soccer player Emily Gielnik, who just finished playing a season in the Swedish Women's League for Vittsjo, which I probably butchered that.
That's okay.
That's close enough. She's played in the W League since 2009 when she played her debut match for Brisbane Roar, a club she'll be returning to for the 2020 and 21 Australian W League season. She's played in national leagues across the globe and has been in the Matildas squad since 2016. Last year, she played her first World Cup and will hopefully be playing in Tokyo next year at the Olympics. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. And yes, I've been saying Vittsjo for about 2 months and no one understood what I was saying. And it's pronounced Vittsjo, believe it or not. You would have no clue.
Oh, way off.
Yeah, and don't worry, I was way off for many months. Yeah.
So, Emily, you've spent most of 2020 in Europe, first in Germany playing for Bayern Munich, and most recently in Sweden with Vittsjo. How has it been playing professional soccer during the pandemic?
To be honest, Bayern Munich was a bit of a different experience for me because Corona actually hit whilst we were there. And I was, funny story, not sure how many people know about this, but I was actually, before Corona was told to the actual world, because we know now that it was known a long time ago, but when it was released to the world, we had actually booked a flight as a national team to go and play in China, in Wuhan, where it actually originated. So I had emails, which I still can't believe to this day. So I was getting on this flight up until 24 hours before my flight saying high risk, do not get on the flight. So we were actually meant to be based in Wuhan, playing against China when the pandemic hit. So I don't know, that's some sort of weird coincidence, but that didn't happen. And then I'd been locked up in my apartment in Munich for a couple of months, and then we started some small training, and then we got back into the games, but it was quite strict. And then before I knew it, I literally came home for 10 days and spent 2 weeks quarantining, and then I was back in Sweden. So not much of a holiday, and a very different experience for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back a bit to when you first started playing soccer, which you had quite a late start to when you were 12, but you progressed really quickly from there. How did you go from there, on your way up, and when did professional soccer become the dream?
So originally most people know I played rugby for fun with the boys, and obviously soccer at school. But it actually started with basketball. That was more my serious sport. I loved every sport, athletics, but I was playing basketball at quite a good level. And I had finally convinced my mum to let me play soccer. And that's when I was 12. She let me play, and I had a pretty successful season, but obviously I was a very old school player, not very skillful. Just got the job done and scored a ton of goals. So that's kind of when I fell in love with it. And then it wasn't until about 14, 15 where I started envisioning kind of the pathway. The dream was to play for Brisbane Roar, and then that happened. And then the dream was to be a part of the young Matildas, and that happened. And then the national team, the top team, and then that happened. And then it was goals from then onwards to the World Cup and the Olympics. And I've been to the World Cup and obviously hoping to be a part of the Olympics. So it was a different pathway for me because I didn't grow up making it stage by stage in terms of the selection pathway like all my other teammates did. I had a bit of bad luck and it was a bit of a rocky journey, but now it's led me to kind of had longevity within the game. And I think I'm pretty blessed that I had the pathway that I did, because it wasn't step by step like most people's journey. It was a bit up and down, and it was a little bit tougher. So I'm kind of glad it went the way it did.
You'd only been playing for 5 years when you did make your debut for the Brisbane Roar in 2009. And this was the early days of the W League. It was only in its second season. What was it like being part of such a new league that did provide so many more opportunities for young players?
Yeah, I just remember, obviously, I was fangirling. I loved all the players. And now I've been those players now who I dreamt of playing, being like and playing like. I've been invited to their weddings. I've been I've been good friends with them now for years. So it's a pretty surreal feeling if you look at it. And now that you brought it up, I think about it because it is crazy. I was going to those Matildas matches and those Brisbane Roar matches, hoping to be a part of that one day, but never really sure if I was going to reach that potential. So yeah, when I first got my contract for Brisbane Roar, that was pretty insane. And then once I had broken into that team and kind of earned myself the respect and the value of being there, I knew that I could go further with it. So that was already a dream come true for me, already making the W League so early on, considering not starting as a young footballer, from when I could really walk or anything. So I really had to develop quickly. And that was obviously a big tick off the list for me in terms of, okay, I could see this as a future now once I made the Raw team.
You scored your hat-trick in your debut match for the Matildas in 2011.
Yeah.
So when did you realise that that soccer was something you could pursue not only as a passion but as a career?
I think it took me some time, the first few years in the W League. Obviously, I played for Brisbane Roar for 8 seasons now, and I'm going back for my 9th, I think. It definitely wasn't the first couple of years. I thought I'm good enough at this level. I had a lot to learn. I didn't grow up with great coaches or a skill base. I really had to climb the ropes quickly. But as soon as I started banging in goals one season and kind of became this super sub and started believing in myself a little bit more, the doors started opening. And it was kind of one season, I can't remember particularly what date it was. I'm terrible with dates, what year it was. But that was kind of where I felt the doors opening for me and the opportunities arising. And I knew it could go one way or the other for me. I could keep playing fun at this professional level, but I'd always dreamt of wearing the green and gold. And then making the young Matildas and scoring the hat-trick on my debut was obviously pretty special. And the ball just kept rolling from then onwards. And once I had that belief, I knew I would be playing for the national team one day, no doubt.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible to have your debut and have such a start like that. So since you did start playing professionally just over a decade ago, you've played in, obviously, like you said, a lot of W League seasons and also a lot of overseas leagues, as well as the national team, which I guess is quite regular for a top-level soccer player. They're playing all year round and overseas and in Australia and so on. But how taxing is that on you, constantly playing and training and, travelling? I guess a bit less so this year, but more so in the past, both in a physical and in a mental sense?
I think for me, it's definitely more the mental sense. I'm someone that strives on the physical attributes of playing at a high level. I could go all year round, and I've done it now for many years back to back with maybe a 1 or 2 week actual break off football. So I kind of love that situation of going from season to season, but the mental toll of being away from my family, my partner, my friends, like having to rebuild this new life everywhere you go. It's fortunate that I'm a people person and I can adapt in situations quickly. But I remember when I took my first contract in Liverpool in the UK, I think I was only 19 or 20, and I was a bit homesick, and it was a lot to adapt to, and that was kind of the start for me. And it was a very, very rocky start of being abroad. And yeah, you learn to grow up very, very quickly. And as soon as I realized I was in a situation to be able to travel the world, earn enough money to live abroad and play football doing what I love instead of a 9-to-5 job, I wanted to go and see and experience as many footballing countries and cultures as possible. So that's kind of was my intention there, to see what suits me and to see the world while I have this amazing opportunity with football to do that.
Yeah, and you've played across in Asia and Canada and obviously in Europe. I was watching an interview you did with the Matildas earlier this year, and you talked about your time at Bayern Munich and how it didn't turn out how you'd expected, especially as such a powerhouse of a club, and you being brought in because of your unique style and then being told to kind of change it. Can you talk a bit about your time there?
Yeah, look, I've touched on it a few times now, and I think my time there could have been a lot different if I was staying for 2 or 3 years. I know for sure that it's a club and a culture that you need time. You just need time to really get into it, to learn the culture and the footballing style. And it's a bit of a different, opposite style for me. And all coaches have a different philosophy. And I was brought in there for a specific reason, but wasn't really used to the advantage of what I was brought there for, which I finally accepted in the end. And sometimes a lot of football's out of your control, but I took a lot of positives from it. And, I've come away feeling that I did deserve to play. And that's the most important thing. It's not that I felt that I wasn't good enough or anything. I most definitely know that I can be around the best and be at one of the best clubs in the world. And, it was more so just the disappointment from feeling like I deserved a bit more of an opportunity to express myself on the field. So that was my main disappointment. But in terms of people and culture, I adapt easily, and I did enjoy my time there, and it was a world-class facility and a great opportunity. So I don't have any regrets there. And I'm still glad I only did sign 1 year, because I got to see it and be a part of that. And once again, I can take something away from every club and every good or bad situation. I've definitely learned a lot and grown as a player since being there with some of the best players in the world. So absolutely no regrets for being there for one season.
Yeah, that's so interesting what you say about it would have been better if you'd been there for a longer time. And I guess that's quite a common experience for players, especially Australian players who are, going off around the world to play in different leagues and for different clubs. Is this something that you discuss much with other footballers?
I definitely talk to a lot of young players who want to go abroad. I give them kind of my advice, but sometimes it's good to just be thrown in the deep end and learn along the way. I feel like I've never been a player that's had anything handed to me, and I like that. I like being able to go to a club and earn my spot. It's so much more rewarding, and I like being thrown in a challenging situation. I think I thrive off that as opposed to having it handed to me. And I think that's been my way from the start, and it's got me to where I am right now. So, I encourage people to, I definitely could have stayed longer. And usually in Europe, they want you to sign longer contracts because you need time to get into European football and to gel with a club. But I'm still glad that I made that decision to have just that one season because it's led me to this season here in Sweden where I've been very successful. And that's actually, if I really think about it, it's hard to do coming off such a disappointing season and going into a successful one. It's easy to stay down, but it's not very easy to excel after a time that's been tough. So I'm pretty pleased with how it all turned out. And thanks to COVID, to be honest, I never really saw myself in Sweden. It was a last minute decision and I was stuck in quarantine, and I decided to sign a contract and come to a club that I can't even pronounce in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah. So
So
I was going to say there seems to be an ever-growing crowd of Australian female players going overseas. Do you see this as proof that the pool of talent within Australia is both improving and growing?
Definitely. I think in terms of national team players, I know for many years everyone has always wanted to leap out and branch out overseas and test themselves. Obviously, every Australian loves playing football at home in your own country. You're comfortable with your friends and your family, and that's always nice. It was only a matter of time before everyone, the girls were going to America a lot because that coincided with the W League in Australia. So that worked out well in terms of dates and transferring over to a new league. But Europe, when you play in Europe, you generally miss the W League. So seems like last year was the year for those players to go over there and challenge themselves. And I think it's been really great. And there is a lot of talent coming out of Australia that's now gone abroad, but it also opens up opportunity for new talent to come through into the Australian League and to grow the game without those familiar faces there. So I think it's both good and bad that the W League doesn't have these players this year, but it's great for the up and coming and the development of football.
Yeah, so Emily, you're a part of the Olympic qualifying squad for the Rio Olympics in 2016, but unfortunately you were not part of the final team that went to Rio. I can imagine missing out so narrowly would have been extremely difficult. How did you deal with this?
I was on standby, so I actually had to keep training just in case someone had gotten hurt. So it was quite tough, but I'm a very team person, and I supported them in front of the TV like a screaming fan that was going mental, and I just wanted the best for them. Obviously, it was heartbreaking for me. It took me some time to get over it, because I had felt, when I feel like I deserve something and then that doesn't come my way, it's a bit more heartbreaking. If I felt like I didn't do enough, then fair enough. But when I was so close and I had really felt that it was my opportunity to be had, and then it was taken away, it was a bittersweet. It was a hard one for me, and of course there was a few tears. I'm a bit of a sook, but there's everything happens for a reason, and I bounced back after that and was able to be a part of my first World Cup. So obviously with the Olympics coming up, it's a bit of a sore topic for me, but I just will do everything in my power to make sure I'm there and make sure I'm a part of that. So yeah, trying not to reflect too much on what was and more so on what's coming. But yeah, it was definitely a hard time for me for quite some time, but I was able to let it go, obviously, and just push on after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you did mention, you did play in the World Cup last year, which was obviously in the Matildas team.
Yeah.
It seems to be, quite a common experience amongst soccer players on the up and coming, facing significant setbacks despite, really like early successes, especially I guess because there is such a, it's the world game. There's such a large talent pool and there can only be so many in the team. Having experience being in the squad for a number of years and constantly, competing for the team, can you tell us a bit about the environment within the Matildas training squads? Did the pressure change with different coaches or player dynamics within that environment?
Mm-hmm. It's been really hard because since I've been involved, we've had 4 coaches now. So I think that's always tough. That's 4 different philosophies. That's some coaches like the way you play, some coaches don't. And at the end of the day, it's very much out of your control. All you can do is express yourself on the field and in training and what you do off the field. And ultimately it's their decision. So we've had many, many different styles of coaches, but the vibe is always good at national team camp. It's the way to explain it. It's very cutthroat. It's everyone knows they're competing for a position, and although you might be in a squad, everyone wants to play at the end of the day. So you're competing for that 11 and to be in the mind of the coach of a sub that could potentially come on. So it's extremely competitive, and it's one of the toughest environments you can be in. But it's also very rewarding and a nice feeling to know that, there is usually a squad of 20 and that's in the whole of your nation. And when you're a part of that, it's a very proud moment, and obviously worked very hard to get there, but you have to work even harder to stay there. So I think it keeps me going and just keeps the fire there to stay a part of it, because 1 second you're in and in 1 second you can be out. There's no doubt, because we have many, many good players and quite a good squad depth.
Yeah, so Emily, as we mentioned, in May 2019, you were named in the Matildas team for your first ever World Cup in France. What was the moment like when you found out that you were picked?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I cried. I actually think it was caught on camera. I think the Matildas set it up of everyone's reactions, but I got a call from the manager and he did a really great job at having a very disappointed tone in his voice. And I just thought, not again. I was just preparing to be heartbroken, but also hoping that he was just putting it on. But obviously you can't say anything at the time when you're in a serious phone call. But yeah, it was more tears of joy and just relief, because I knew I should be there. And so it was just a good feeling to finally hear that you're actually going, and it's one thing going, but it's more important for me to be a part of it. And I played a lot, and that was important for me to feel that I was really involved in the game at that time. It's such a prestigious event. And so that's been, a lot of years coming. That was a very, very big moment in my career for sure, is knowing that I was going to the World Cup, but also heavily being a part of the playing squad. So yeah, that was a really, really nice moment for me, and I'll definitely never forget that one.
I can't imagine the stress you would have felt on the phone at that point.
Yeah, it was stressful.
Yeah, and the Matildas seem to be quite good at catching things on camera.
Definitely. You can't be too careful around anyone.
Yeah. It seems like you've gone through a real journey of determining your own value in this cutthroat international scene, the ability to say, this is what I'm worth, these are the games I should be able to play, I have unfinished business with this team and so on. Can you talk a bit about how you did build up this confidence?
I've always been a bit of a confidence player. When I'm down, I'm extremely down. And don't get me wrong, over the years, I've had some really good highs and some really big lows where I could have easily been out of the game. And I think I've built confidence just from having momentum. I've come to a point in my career where as a striker, I don't need to measure success by how many goals I'm scoring. If I'm feeling good and playing good and doing my bit for the team, to me, that's successful. And so I need to give myself a little bit more credit because I'm the first one to slam myself after a game. And I've really obviously high expectations for myself. And so I'm just trying to build off game by game and things that I've done on an international level and kind of justify, well, I was at a World Cup and I've been here, and here. Like I need to put, just instill that I am valuable and worth where I am right now. So yeah, I've kind of just gone on a bit of reflecting and realized that I should be where I am because I have been a part of all those things. And I simply just wouldn't have been chosen if they didn't think I was the best person for the job. So that's kind of where that confidence comes from. And I'm just slowly building on it. And that's a never ending process for me, building that confidence. And I think this season in Sweden has obviously really helped that coming off a bit of a low from Bayern Munich. So it's definitely a daily battle in terms of confidence for me, but I now enjoy the times where it is a bit tough.
Yeah, so it's been a year since the Football Federation Australia and Professional Footballers Australia announced the historic collective bargaining agreement that would see Australia's premier women footballers provided with an increased annual salary from 66,000 to 100,000, the same amount as the top Socceroos. This was definitely an important step by the FFA to choose to financially support female footballers to be full-time professional athletes. Mm-hmm. As a professional footballer yourself, how has this agreement had an impact on you?
I think it's just been great, not in terms, of course, the finances are important, but in terms of the equality within women's sport in general. Now that the Matildas and the Socceroos have done it, I hope it opens more avenues for the rest of the female sporting world, across the board. And that goes for all other national teams and all other sports and codes. And I just think it's great that it happened for us. And, it's opened up a lot of opportunities for people to not stress as much, to have to work and to be able to focus a little bit more on football. And because not everyone is in a privileged situation with their family, a lot of people have to work and they miss out on, football tournaments and things like that. So I think this gives people a little bit more opportunity and hope for the future, and especially the talent coming through. You can see it more as a professional job and something to look forward to and aim for. Obviously, it's still a big stretch in compared to what the men in this footballing world get paid, in terms of the Leo Messis and the Ronaldos and whatever. Mm. That's still too much of a gap there. But I just see it as a step forward, and it was huge for us, most definitely. And we're extremely appreciative. But we also want it to be the start of wanting more and more for the future for the generation coming through. So we're just trying to now do our bit in our era and build that. And I think it couldn't come any more perfect timing with the 2023 World Cup being in Australia as well. So, it's definitely a great thing that's happened for us.
Yeah, that just leads on to my next question. In June, they announced that Australia was going to be hosting the World Cup, which is incredibly exciting after falling short in bidding for the 2022 Men's World Cup to Qatar. Mm-hmm. What sort of impact do you think us hosting the World Cup will have on the promotion of women's football in Australia?
Honestly, massive. It couldn't come at a better time. I just know, obviously, playing around the world, and there's so many footballers I've spoken to have always wanted to go to Australia, and now is finally their opportunity, because in a footballing, there is no window for you to travel that far for only 1 or 2 weeks of a break. So I think it's going to be great for the European football culture to see what we have to offer in Australia. I think it's a beautiful country, and I think it will grow the game massively and give, instill hopes and dreams into young kids that will come to the game with their mum and dad. And I think it will be such a good showcase for our country and our footballing nation. And I'm just biased, and I love Australia, and I think it's been a long time coming and it's well overdue. But I just feel so fortunate that it's in my time, because that just doesn't happen often, and I know we'll never get that time again as long as I'm having a career. So I just feel extremely lucky to potentially be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just so interesting looking back and saying, wow, the W League only started, just over 10 years ago, and now we're hosting a World Cup. So that must be really exciting for you to have basically gone through this whole professionalisation of soccer in Australia.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's when you look at it from that way, it's only 10 years in the sport here, and how the grassroots game has grown in terms of female participation. I think it's amazing. And now hosting a World Cup, it can only go up from here. So it's really good for the future prospects, and it's really good for our nation as a whole, I believe.
Yeah, so you'll be back in Australia very soon. You'll be going into quarantine, and then you'll be playing for the Brisbane Roar, which kicks off just before the new year, I believe. And then you've got basically, I'm guessing you're preparing for Tokyo 2021. What does the schedule look like for yourself and, in training for the Olympics?
Yeah, that's a question that I would also like to know. And then we've had all of our camps cancelled, obviously, because of Corona and different laws and restrictions in England and wherever all the other girls are based. We're meant to have a camp here in Sweden, which was going to be perfect for me, and that was in a week, and that's cancelled. So look, our new coach doesn't technically start with us until January, so I won't really know anything. None of us will know anything until that's finalised and what movements can be available, and who knows what direction COVID is going in right now across the world. It's really difficult to say what opportunities we'll have as a team and what camps we'll have and what the Olympics will even be like, or if there will even be an Olympics. Like, everything's so up in the air right now. And I think the only thing I can concentrate on is going home and playing the W League and making sure I'm in great condition for anything that is going to eventuate. But as of now, we literally have no answers, and we've been really disappointed with the camps that have been cancelled, but we understand that there's just no opportunity to have those camps with all the girls being so spread across the broad part of Europe. So yeah, I would love those answers, but unfortunately I don't also have them.
There you go. So we just got to keep watching, I guess. Yeah. Listen out to what restrictions will allow and everything. All right. Well, exactly. Emily, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much for, I think that was a bit of a lag on my part there. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting to us today. It was so interesting just learning about your whole journey and obviously all the ups and downs of your footballing career.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks very much. I hope that somebody can listen to this and see what promising things there are for the future of women's football, and that would be really good. Hopefully the story can relate to somebody that's maybe had a similar situation in football, and it's great that what you guys are doing, and appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was a great interview. Emily is such an inspiring woman in sport, and we feel so privileged to have been able to have this chat. Head over to wissports.com to find the show notes. You can follow Emily on Twitter at EGIELNick and Instagram, all lowercase, at Emily Gielnik. We are at Oz Women's Sports on all socials. Wissports is at Wissports on all socials. Or if you prefer email over social media, you can email info@wissports.com.
Hoy volví a pensar en los días que estaban por venir. Decidí desviar mi camino muy lejos de ti. Dime si mentir nos haría sentir un poco más iguales. Ya no sé si